All right, so I went through and I sculpted my dude some more. Obviously, he's not done, but you can see like it's not terribly detailed. It's also not perfect. It's got a little like imperfections. Some spots, like I tried to do a little bit of wrinklage here, but you can see there's just not enough resolution really for some of it. See how it's kind of chunky right there? So it's not really enough. You can also see what I was talking about with seams. Like you're just going to end up with seams some places, but I can try to hopefully hide those in some way. Anyways, that'll be my goal. um, yeah, so he's not done, but it's enough where like it's things that do affect the silhouette. I would go through and spend a lot more time. This did not take an insignificant amount of time. So if you're like, oh, mine doesn't, are you spending hours on it? Because I spend hours on mine. So don't think like it's just some quick, easy thing. It takes time. And there's a bunch of things I want to change on it. This looks too small. Anyway, anyhow, so yeah, I just went through and I did little things. I even did a little bit on his face, nothing crazy, but just a little bit of something just to give him a little something over all of it. Okay, so you just want to make sure, you're trying to put a little bit on everything. All right. So it's going to be easier to make these more broad changes on these lower areas than it is going to be on the when you get to when it's low res than when you're in higher res. So I'm going to go ahead and make a new layer, and we'll just call this details. Details. Oops. Apparently I have caps lock on. Details. Okay. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to subdivide this. So I'll hit Shift D. And now we're on level 4. Shift D. And come in. Okay, it's doing it. Doing it. Okay, level 5. And that's where I'm going to start putting these, okay? So maybe 4 would have been enough. I don't know. But I'm going to put, tighter details on my level 5 here, okay? You should be able to get up to level 6. Maybe you can only get to level 5. If that's the case, then get to level 5 and call it a day. You could make one thing for each level. I mean, you could do level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, all the way up. However you want to do it. Doesn't really matter to me. You got to just, decide your own method. Sometimes I even show you guys methods. I generally try to show you my method, but often I honestly show you guys a method that's simple. And it's not necessarily even the way that I do it. It's just so that you can understand it and apply it in your own way. So, like even this is somewhat what I do, but I might add more levels in between or, do other things. Okay. So in here, it's really just going to be the same thing we've been doing. I'm just going to basically tighten up some details. So I'll just use my sculpt, which I still have set to... Oh, one thing I want to do too, his eyes are kind of annoying me. So I'm actually going to go ahead and just change the materials on those just because it's really bothering me. So to do that, let's go to Objects. I'm going to unlock them. I'm going to select this eyeball. We're going to right click on it and we're going to go ahead and assign a new material, and we'll make it a mud box material just so it matches everything else. I'm going to make the diffuse just white, and the rest of it, I don't really care. I feel like the rest of it's fine, and we'll just call this eyeball, okay? And I will hit enter, and we will blah. Okay, so now if you see that eyeball has it, so I'm just going to click on this one, right click, and we'll right click and we'll assign material and we'll just do eyeball, and then I'm just going to lock those back up. I'm going to click on this, then control click to click back off of it, and now his eyes are white. I just find that it just was a little bit distracting to me. It doesn't actually matter. I just wanted to not have it look like that anymore. Okay, so from here, now I can get a little more into details, so I can like go to his face. You can see it's not high enough. I forgot to cut the eyelids from the mask, but I didn't want to go back and fix it, so it is what it is. So yeah, I can use the sculpt. I still have it on cut, and I'm just gonna go ahead and I can cut, like I can cut finer details. Like if you look, watch, see how it's probably not even as obvious. Let me undo that real quick. Is it gonna undo? Try again. There we go. But it's better detail than I could get before, right? Now he's got a mustache. All right, so we'll get rid of that. But I can sculpt. Basically, I can cut this eye maybe a little bit better. Although I feel like I might be cutting it a little bit too tight. I'm still going to smooth it after I cut, just because it'll look bad if you don't. And then I'm actually I don't like that. let's go to bulge, I guess. I'm actually going to, ooh, that's really strong. So let's make it a little bit bigger, and we'll take the strength down. Oops. Take the strength down, and I'm just gonna make his eyelids a little bit more pronounced, or a little bit cleaner. And that actually looks worse, so great. But now I can go through and do little things that maybe I wanted to do that were a little bit harder to do before. So if I wanted to put like a little more kind of wrinkles around his eye sockets here, and then maybe sculpt a better nostril here. Maybe even, let's see, let's make this a bit bigger. Kind of like that, because usually he's kind of snarling, so I'm just going to add a little bit to that. And then we can get that nasolabial fold just a little bit stronger. Like so. Maybe, oops, let's do this. Cut this in. But you're going to see it's going to be harder to smooth out your results the higher res that you go. So you can see now that I'm trying to smooth it, see how it's not, I'm smoothing, smooth. It's not smoothing because it just doesn't work as well. So I want to get this lip to be a little bit sharper. So one of the things I'm going to use with that is just this pinch. And I'll make it a little bit smaller here. And I'm just going to, oops, I got it on the steady stroke, which I don't really want to use right now. And I'm just going to try and pinch it. And then we'll smooth it out because you can see did quite a bit of artifacting. And then we'll pinch this as well, just to make that a little bit tighter. Okay. Bulge. Let's go a little bit higher. I feel like we gotta go in a little here. Smooth that out. And come back to the face. It's a little too strong of a thing now. Let's see if we can smooth that out a little bit, his upper lip. See if I can smooth that out. Okay. But now I can go through and add, a little detail. So one thing I wanted to do was to actually make it look like there was stitching here, right where his thing is, his seam of his thing is. So actually to do that, what I'm going to do is go to UVs and maps, and I'm going to flatten the UV space, and then we'll back this thing up. All right. And what I'm going to do is go to my paint, and I'm going to make a new layer. And I'm just going to put, we'll call it markers. And what I'm going to do is go to my paint tools, eyedrop this. Make sure I have paintbrush. Sweet. Let's eyedrop it again. There it goes. And I'm just going to do a darker version of it. Okay. And I'm going to make sure we're going to turn off mirroring right now. And come on, there it goes. And I'm just going to paint on the edge here a dark line. And I'll paint an edge here also a dark line. Okay. And then I can do that wherever I want to have the seams. So we'll do it also on his pants. I wanted to show off his seams. So this is, I'm trying to accentuate the seam because I'm just going to use it as part of his outfit to make it look kind of old school. I want it to look like what do you call it? And I can always take this off. Like afterwards, I'll delete it if I want. But I'm just making. I want it to look more like spandex and less like tights. Which those might be the same thing, but I think you know what I mean. Like where it's like that fabric-y material and not so much like nylons. Like I want it to look like fabric more than look like some like plastic material. And we'll call that good as far as that part's concerned. Okay, so I'm just going to go to UVs and we'll unflatten from UV space. And just, I don't know why it does that. Super annoying. Keep accidentally hitting my stupid. Yep, we get it. Go away. Thank you. Click, control click. Back on layers. Back on sculpting. Okay, and go back to my sculpting layers. Okay, so now I can see where those lines are, and I'm just going to use that as a guide to draw my seam. So I'm just going to go to the sculpt I have cut, and I'm just going to go ahead and use, come on, cool, there you go. We'll use steady stroke, and I'm just going to go ahead and draw a line right down this so that it looks sort of like a seam. And did that do it on both sides? It did not. Okay, so apparently sometimes the mirroring transfers over, sometimes it don't. It decided not to that time, so let's do it again. It's more fun the second time. Okay. Just trying to put it onto the right side of it because that's where the actual seam is. That looks good. And I didn't draw this one for the top, so I don't know where it is. Good job, me. I'm going to guesstimate that it's here because I don't feel like going through and figuring it out. Okay. And I did it also for the pants. But basically what I'm trying to get at is that now is the time to start putting some of the more minute details in. Okay. And I think that's good. See, I want to do it on these pants too. They should be right where the other one was, so I'm just going to go right up. Really, I should paint it like I did before to make sure it was the same, but I don't really care. We're going to say it like that. Well, that looks too forward, but I don't really care. We're going to say it's good. All right. So now what I'm going to do is actually turn that off because I didn't really need that right at the moment. I literally just put it there so I could figure out what it looked like. And now you can see I have that little seam thing. And I'm just going to go ahead and turn this off. The steady stroke, let's go to bulge, make this a little bit bigger, and I'm just going to kind of smooth it out a little bit, and maybe put a little bit more on this side. Okay, and maybe a little bit more on this side, and smooth it out. And it just makes it look like there's a little bit of stitching there. And other things I can do too, which I would want to do, is I want to make it look a little bit like fabric. So I'm just going to add some wrinkling, like so. I actually want to do more with his muscles, but I think I'm just going to leave it for now. Just because I'm trying to just show you what you can do. So we'll just kind of smooth that out. Okay. And then smooth out the ends of it. Alright, and then you can do sculpt, and I can just cut this part of it. So it looks a little bit more like fabric lines. I'm just going to smooth that out a touch. Okay, I'm going to smooth this out too. Oops, let's do a little less than that. Okay. Maybe we can add a little bit of some lines to his mask on the top here. Just smooth that out. And because we do have the stitching here, we can actually have lines coming off of it. Smooth it out, especially on the end. Let's see if we can make this a little bit smaller. What we want to do, we probably bring this up too in here, is just like I was saying with the muscles, you should look and see if you can find some reference so that like look up like stitching on the side of like pants or jeans or something and see what you end up getting. Okay. But I have to do that. Obviously, this is going to be very time consuming, but it's going to give it a sense of realism. So what you want to do is have it a little more bulbous in there, and then on the end, you want to smooth it out really tight. So that way, it mostly looks like it's coming from in here. I'm just going to keep drawing these lines. Push a little bit harder here, and then kind of fade out. It's a little too even, but I don't want to spend all day on it. Like that. And then what I can do is use the sculpt here, my one that's cutter. Just going to pull this down. Maybe make it a little bit less even, a little bit less. There we go. And I can, oops, we're going to weaken it up too here. Come on, undo. There we go. And now I can kind of accentuate maybe some of the seams here. And we can kind of, some of the wrinkles coming from here too, from his mask, kind of a thing. And those are a little too subtle, if you will. But if you were to look at it from the side, right, it kind of has like a sort of a stitching look. At least that's what we're going for. I don't know how much that actually works, but hopefully you get the idea. So I can start to add details like that, which will make it look a little bit more fabric. And then if I do want to do, you know, something where it's a little bit more like, oh, look at these muscles. Again, I would just look at the reference here. I'll make this much larger. And then I can just, you know, draw in maybe the striations of his muscles here. And have these kind of come out. Maybe accentuate this, maybe accentuate the pit of the neck a little bit more. And he does have this neck muscle coming in, so I could kind of like draw those lines. But basically, I'm just going to use this cutter here. I'm calling it a cutter, but I think there actually is one called cut, isn't there? Knife. But I can use that to try and, you know, accentuate some of the muscles and that sort of thing. So, you know, but if you can help it, I'm being kind of lazy right here. But if you can help it, it's better to, it's better if you actually make it asymmetrical. Like, most people don't have perfect abs, you know? And what I mean by that is that they're actually asymmetrical. Like, these aren't right either. Serratus anterior, I think these are called, these muscles. But I just kind of goofed them in there. But you get kind of the idea. Then we can kind of, you know, if I wanted this to be a little bit stronger, I can draw some lines in there. Because obviously this is just straight up skin, right? So I can kind of draw these lines in there to really accentuate maybe some of the muscles and stuff like that. Okay. The main thing is that you can have some harsh ones, but then you always want to fade them out up here. Like, just smooth. Like, if I draw it up here, try to fade it out if you can. But if you're only working with a mouse, just draw a line, and then when you get to the end, just smooth it slowly out. And so it's harsh here and light there. Wrinkles kind of work the same way. You just... You know, there's things, too, I could do to, like, do, like, battle damage and stuff. These things look fake. It's like, things are really bad. Yeah. So, you know, but I would do like stitching in here and all that jazz. But you know, and there's other things too where like, so he has arm veins. So this is like one of those things where I'm going to look up a reference real quick. Bodybuilder space arm. I have the picture. I have my other monitor. I have pictures. Let me just look up bodybuilder because last time I had that one dude and they were showing his stuff pretty well. Let me see. Where are you, dude? There he is. Okay. Somebody use a guide. So you could even do like the veins, right? So I could do, and then just, is this out? Oh, it is. Okay. Let's just, I think I'm going to go more like this, just so it's a little bit more subtle. If that's too small, make it bigger. It's a little bit big, a little bit smaller. Okay. But I would use a reference and then just make sure after you draw it, you would kind of fade it out. And then I can kind of bleed this out into other veins. And then you'd want them to get smaller and more imperceptible as you kind of went along. But I would look up, I'm not a huge fan of those veins. I'd look up, you know, veins of an arm and then use that as your guide. This arm looks very fake to me. This muscle looks weird. It shouldn't be, shouldn't look like that. This should be small. This should actually cut in more and go up, but I kind of just went straight down. All right. Oh, that was 20 minutes. Okay, so hopefully you get the idea, though. So, like, just from here, you know what I mean? You're just going to literally add, you know, your details of what you want. And then we can, you know, add other parts. Hopefully you get the idea. All right, but this is kind of the fun part where we get to do all the details and all that, and he's starting to come together. All right, so just sculpt a bunch of details, and then I'll do another video on sculpting minute, like surface details.